Welcome to the Dr. John Roland Show. Dr. Roland is committed to reversing disease with stem cell medicine and custom lifestyle coaching. To learn more, visit evolutionmedicinedallas.com or call 972-658-0928. Now, here's your host, Dr. John Roland.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Another segment of our show. As you know, we bring interesting people. Sometimes we bring researchers. Sometimes we bring foundations that support patients. Today is a very interesting session. Natural Awakenings is a magazine that is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and has been for some time. It includes lots of references to this new model of health that many of my patients are discovering. The fact is that there are so many integrated facets to our health. The real question of why it is that we got sick. And it is through magazines like Natural Awakenings and others that are really enlightening people. And so I have joined with us today Bernice Butler, who is the publisher of Natural Awakenings. Bernice, are you with us?
I am with you. How are you?
I'm fine. So nice of you to join me on my program. Bernice, your magazine has indeed awakened, if I can use your title, so many people. And you've been with it in the Dallas-Fort Worth area since it started. Tell us about the magazine and its growth and acceptance in the community.
Okay. Yeah, our purpose is education and information in the space of green, healthy, and sustainable living. Mm-hmm. Some of those words may seem redundant, but I think different people may assign different meanings to each. So I think if we say all three, green, healthy, and sustainable, we kind of catch everything, and we kind of catch everyone's meanings. We launched publication of the magazine here in June of 2010. 2010? Yeah.
So 8.5 years.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And there was a nascent green or environmental and sustainable community here then, very small, and I've seen that grow by leaps and bounds, as well as healthy living. The healthy living community was much more robust than the environmental community, as it is still. However, I felt like it was kind of underground or something. Uh-huh. It didn't have its own space or community. And now it does, and it has a very robust community. We like to think that we're part of that, but irrespective, there is a very much a community where the integrative practitioners and holistic practitioners know each other, refer among each other, and they're beginning to kind of form partnerships and organizations and expos and things of that nature.
So it's hard to know. I guess sometimes you're led by the teachers in the community, the physicians, the other healthcare practitioners, and sometimes you're led by the populace that is demanding this. I guess you see it on both sides.
I do. And both sides are our constituencies. Mm-hmm. Readers, which are, in essence, the consumers of the healthy living information, and then the practitioners. And from our standpoint, we service each of them equally, and each of them is needed for us. You know, as advertisers, the practitioners then are our clientele, but we are not worth anything to them if folks are not reading our information.
So it is.
So that's why I like to.
It is
truly
call it a
community.
how we say, you're raising consciousness about the connections, the interconnections of all of these things in our environment and our health.
Exactly. Our tagline is green living is healthy and healthy living is green.
Well,
and they really are inextricably connected. We kind of say that month after month after month.
Right. Well, and I do too. And but it's a new concept for most physicians. I often refer to it as that's kind of where the textbooks stop. They tend to stop right at the point of, well, what caused you to get sick? The directions, they're almost cookbooks, diagnosis and treatment, but we tend not to focus, at least traditional medical doctors, have not focused on why you get sick, and poses, and we never pose the question, well, if we address the reasons why you got sick, it might affect the disease process. And that's a real missing link, isn't it?
Exactly. It really is. I remember early on in my publishing career, and we were doing something on functional medicine. So I'm looking, what's the big deal? What does that mean? And I kept seeing a lot of the practitioners that I talked to and who were part of our community kept, like, we find the cause. They kept harping on that. Then I began to realize, for me, that was very normal because I think I'm an inquisitive person. I want to know why everything. But I began to realize, like you, that was a great big missing link. As I began to compare that space with my own experience in the traditional medical setting. You're given bandages, you're given medications, but it's as opposed to spending most of your time on trying to find out the why.
Bernice, on Tuesday this week, I had the opportunity to sit down with two retired researchers with Southwestern Medical School. And I had a chance to sit down with them and talk through a lot of this pathogenesis of why it is we got sick. And I was using some of the models for MS. I went back over them and I presented it to them, and they are enlightened as well. They understand that, and these are teachers that teach our medical students. And I asked them why. I said, why isn't this being discussed in medical school? And he said, most don't think that it's proven, and the rest has to do, he says, I have 12 weeks to teach them all of what is important in pharmacology. And he says, it's jam-packed. And we have to be sure that people aren't going to, kill people with the medications that we're prescribing. And so the whole focus is off in medical school. And boy, it sure needs to get fixed, and it needs to get fixed from the ground up. It's fascinating how we've come to where we are with this.
It really is. One of the things that I have seen, and I just tell everybody I see, is that people in this space of healthy living, the consumers of it, as well as the practitioners, crave information. And I guess that's the essence of our publication, is education and information. They crave it. I run across so many smart consumers, when I'm out at these various expos, like the Gluten-Free Expo or what have you. And I guess I'm inquisitive. I'll ask people, well, how did you find out that you were celiac? Or why? I'm always asking that question about everything.
Yes.
And inevitably they tell me that, I was like sick for 3 years, 2 years, 5 years. And I begin to read and kind of experiment and see how various things acted or affected me.
Interesting. So, the very title of your magazine, Natural Awakenings, kind of suggests that raising the consciousness of tuning into your body and trying to figure out what is making it sick. Some of it is intuitive, but you know, there quite a bit of that is not. And I can tell you as a functional medicine doctor that we are developing very, very sophisticated tools to understand what vitamin deficiencies are present, what insults that you have in your body, whether that's plastics or insecticides or heavy metals, and you know, it is knowable out there. There are now tests for the more subtle adrenal insufficiencies that drive a lot of illness in a lot of people. People wonder why are they tired all the time. Well, you know, we now have some tests, but the fact is, taking a good history, I can diagnose adrenal fatigue without doing tests. I know that they're fried, and I'm sure that you come across that as well.
Yep.
Interesting. So you get have the opportunity to meet lots of different practitioners, and they're coming to Dallas.
Yes.
Do they come here, or are there doctors that become educated and educate themselves? What do you see?
Both. But I tell you, probably most or more of what I see is the ones who educate themselves, or they have a family issue. Because again, every practitioner who I talk to, if they let me talk to them long enough, I ask them, so how did you get into this? You know, how did you get to this place? And so many people tell me, well, my daughter, my mother, my sister, my brother, somebody had this issue.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, we researched, we experimented, and from there, when I saw things work, then I went on to get certifications or licenses as a homeopath, a naturopath, whatever.
And I do know a number of physicians that have themselves gotten sick, and in the process of healing themselves, they found this integrated view of medicine.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Or by way of what they do. For example, I had some significant surgery right at about a year ago. And my surgeon, it was a robotic-assisted laparoscopy.
Okay.
And my surgeon, Dr. Matthews, is kind of like a rock star with that.
Yes.
She works at Baylor. But she also has a integrative medicine practice right there at Baylor, too.
He does.
Yes, she does.
She does, yes.
Yes, a she. I knew about her because Baylor's Oncology is one of our advertisers.
Uh-huh.
And so I knew about her, and so I made the choice. I actually had to wait around about a month to have my surgery to get her free. But that's why, because I knew she was an integrative doctor, and so I was a little confused. I said, well, you know, how do you do integrative gynecological surgeries? Well, you don't do it that, you know, that's not the case, but I'm an integrative practitioner. But, you know, I also do the surgery is the surgery is the surgery. A big difference with her was, like, they spend all this time and send you all this information prior to checking into the hospital about the pain pump.
Uh-huh.
Well, she doesn't use pain pump with her patients.
How does she manage that?
That's just a little bit of how she is going to go integrative.
I see. So is she using things like massage therapy and other avenues to reduce pain? Yeah,
that's what she recommends, yes. Uh-huh. And at Baylor, they actually, again, it's in, I was mentioning to you before, is I see a lot of integrative practices and modalities, but they tend to be in everybody's oncology department. Well, not everybody's, but of the major hospitals, they're situated or placed in the oncology department.
Well, and I do know that Cleveland Clinic is developing a functional medicine wing, and they're renovating a lot of their treatment protocols, working with the Institute for Functional Medicine in integrating these ideas. Yeah, it's when, you know, I see this as an exponential curve that more and more people will be seeking this out. How much do you see this increasing interest in this?
The interest is I want to say phenomenal, but I don't know if that's if that's overstating it.
Right.
And that's because everybody knows. You know how like everybody knows somebody probably in our society who's had cancer or something.
Yes.
Well, everybody knows somebody who's had some illness or some dis-ease. I like the way they say that, some dis-ease or discomfort or something wrong. And everybody knows someone who's had something like that that's been relieved or helped by a lot of natural, holistic, or integrative modalities.
Things that
in a lot of cases, that was the only relief they sought. I know of one of my advertisers as a practitioner, and she told me that about 20 years ago, she was diagnosed. She had colon cancer, and they told her, what was it? They didn't even want to really do surgery because they told her she would only have 6 months to live. That's 20 years ago.
Yes. Wow.
She healed herself or got better, she's clear, with the raw food diet as well as a number of other different modalities. And now she has a very extensive wellness clinic.
Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it always kind of bothers me in thinking back on it. All of the patients that I've seen with intestinal problems, whether that's inflammatory bowel disease or celiac or Crohn's disease or any of those, and the lack of attention to nutrition.
Yes.
And you would think that should be one of the center guideposts. And of course, in integrated medicine, it is. As a matter of fact,
yes.
We always start with diet. How is your diet? How are you doing on it? And what have you been doing lately with it? It's integral. Well, yeah, that's involved in how we describe this medicine, isn't it?
It really is. But something you and I had touched upon a little bit earlier too, and that is getting us people to make the needed changes.
Getting access to healthy foods.
Yes, because I know my own journey. I've known, I've been told, and I can tell you that the thing that really put me over the start line toward getting on a plant-based diet was, I think, last April. And I knew a lot about it. I was collecting information, doing a little experiment. But I saw the movie that was presented by EarthX called Game Changers.
Huh.
It was a scientific-based movie where they had a number of scientists who were working with various athletes.
Yes.
A wrestler, a boxer, somebody who did jumping, basketball, various athletes. And they actually they would test the people before before they ate. They would have a control group who they may, for dinner that night, they give them a taco with chicken or beef, and then they give the other group a taco that's totally vegetarian. And they measure they have certain metrics that they measure, and time after time after time, you could see the difference that the plant-based diet was making in their performance. I went home from there, and it's been like gun-ho ever since. And I have seen a change and a difference in my own gut.
Yes, interesting.
Yeah.
And
it was scientific. This was scientific-based. They were measuring specific biological metrics.
Fascinating. So performance and other scientific measures.
Yes.
Well,
and that was like in my. You can't deny. I knew it anyway, but seeing that so starkly.
Yes.
Just really made a big difference in my life. And like I said, it put me over the line to start.
Well, you are pretty close to being completely vegan. Is that right?
Yep, pretty close.
I see. I see. I
can't give up. I have to. I can't give up eggs and turkey bacon yet.
The turkey bacon is still on the plate, though, huh?
Yeah.
I personally, I have not firmly convinced of vegan. It is my opinion that totally vegan doesn't provide, if you're not eating meat in any forms, fish and whatnot, that you don't form enough acid in your stomach, and therefore you can't chelate enough iron or heavy metals to get them in. So it is not that one basis that I think eating some animal protein is right. But the rest of it, all the green leafy vegetables, as many colors as possible, I think makes total sense. And it is information. It's genetic information that we're eating. It interacts with those healthy bacteria in our gut, and all of that helps to make up for missing DNA in our own human genomes. We can't live without them. So I admire that you're a vegan and admire healthy food so much.
Plant-based, and I'll probably always be like this, Dr. Roland. It's like, hey, the other thing is too, I do shrimp. It's not that often, but I do shrimp, and I'm very comfortable with it this way. Where it's mostly, and I can tell the difference in how I feel, and I can tell you every here and there.
Yes.
Like I may go to an event or a dinner or something like that, and I'll have some meat. I feel it. I know it.
I see.
When
you have some events that you're advertising in Natural Awakenings that actually make it easy to understand where you can get healthy foods.
Exactly, and I want to talk about them, not so much because they're my advertisers, but again, they've kind of been part of my own journey.
Yes.
Because I also try to stay away from, I watch the gluten that I eat. And one is the Gluten and Allergen Friendly Expo.
Aha.
And it is at Market Hall on the 27th and the 28th.
At Market Hall.
Yeah, it tends to be a very large event. And I learned so much at these events. These are where when I have a table there and people will come up and start talking to me about things that's in the magazine. And again, I'm inquisitive and I always ask, well, how did you know that you had these issues or whatever? And again, I run across so many people who tell me, I've been in pain or not feeling good for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. And, I started to experiment or start taking this out of my diet, or I went to this kind of doctor and they told me this. And now, I'm fine. And again, these are all part of my journey. But at this particular event, what's really great about it is all of the samples and offerings of gluten and allergen-friendly foods that you can see there, and it's a massively attended event. They also have cooking demos and various classes.
Fantastic. And I do want to emphasize to our audience the importance of avoiding gluten. Most of my patients have some kind of autoimmune condition, even if it's just generalized arthritis. I still relate it to potential some grains and diet issues, but gluten-free diet is not just for celiac patients who truly have a very bad reaction to it, but there's a much broader population that is gluten sensitive. And you can't always prove it by laboratory test. But gluten sets up autoimmune processes in the intestine, and it is linked and can aggravate so many different diseases. Did it affect you?
Not really, no. I don't have a particular. I probably have a little bit. I can't remember now. Betty Murray wrote an article in my first or second issue.
Yes.
And her article was telling the difference between gluten allergy, sensitivity, and intolerance. And that's been almost 8 years ago, so I still don't remember the difference. But I do know, that there are gradations of it. And I don't have an allergy or anything, but I know I feel better when I don't eat it. And when I do eat it, I know that I've eaten it. And I just kind of did that by experimenting. And because I feel so much better, then I tend to stay away from it. And now that the offerings and the foods out there are just so much better.
Yes. Yes, they are.
It's a lot easier to do.
Yeah, Betty Murray's brilliance, I admire her so much, and I have worked in her clinic for the last couple of years. Her brilliance and knowledge about gluten is amazing, and foods and nutrition. It's just amazing. You have some other events coming up.
Yeah, the other one is called Texas State Veggie Fair.
Okay.
And it's on that Saturday the 27th. And it's an all-volunteer event, and it's in the open air out at Rivershawn Park in Oaklawn.
Wow.
And it's an amazing event because I've just seen it grow by leaps and bounds. They may not be able to be in Rivershawn but another year or so.
I see.
And again, it's where you have a lot of food trucks and all the veggie-type offerings, not just vegan but vegetarian offerings in the city are going to be there. But here you'll also find vegan boots, vegan clothes.
Really?
It's very animal friendly.
So are you saying that Rivershawn Park is going to be too small?
Yeah, because it's growing so. Yeah, they have when it opens in the morning, they have a long line of folks who've stretched about 2 blocks.
Wow.
Because again, in these spaces where people have issues, maybe like you said, autoimmune or various issues, people crave information.
Yes.
And these two events really are offering people information, and they're offering people samples so they can see where I can still have this different or restricted diet and yet eat delicious food, because I know that's my issue. I love food, and I want delicious food so that I don't feel deprived,
My wife and I devote one night a week that we take something that is classically unhealthy, and we try to prepare it in a healthy manner, and substitute for meats, and substitute for gluten pasta with vegetable pasta, and so we try to recreate that, and most of the time we hit, but we do miss on occasion.
Well, have you come up with any really neat, cool, interesting recipes? People are craving that.
we are really on a crave now for angel hair, zucchini, and making noodles out of it. So that's our latest craze.
I bet that's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's the key. And I think and in fact, I just forgot too. That was one of our feature articles in our October magazine. Plant-based diets, meatlessness goes mainstream. And again, the offerings are so good. I think our subtitle was "The Offerings Increase to Meet Demand." And one of the articles, and I didn't really mean to be pumping up the magazine, but this is what we talk about. One of the sidebar articles we have in this month's issue is we reached out to the professional sports teams.
You did?
In the area to find out their plant-based offerings, and all of them have them. The Texas Rangers has probably the most because Eric Nadal, their longtime announcer, is very much a healthy eater, and so they probably got the most offerings. But the Cowboys did really well too this year.
Really?
But we've got offerings for the Cowboys, the Mavericks, FC Dallas, and the Rangers, and we just have a bulleted list of their plant-based offerings.
Fascinating.
So It's out there.
Bernice, it's been wonderful having you. Your insights are absolutely wonderful. I was so curious about what your thoughts are about this, the emergence of knowledge about this, and interest in the environment and our foods and everything. And you're really documenting that for the rest of us, and we really appreciate your work.
Well, thank you, and I've enjoyed it. And I enjoy what I do because I can see a difference. I can see an impact that's happening out there. So it makes you stay for the long haul.
Well,
and it's been, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been very wonderful to share and talk with you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, please do pick up Natural Awakenings at various places across the DFW. They are in 80 different markets. I think there may be even more than that. Yes. And we've had the luxury of having Miss Butler. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please tune in. We'll have new topics every other week. And thank you for having us into your ears.